What if I told you that somewhere in the forests of America stands a mansion so terrifying that even the police sealed it off after discovering something inside no one could explain? What if every person who entered after midnight disappeared, and years later their voices could still be heard echoing through the empty halls? Tonight's story isn't just another ghost tale. It is inspired by real abandoned American mansions, unexplained disappearances, forgotten newspaper reports, and chilling urban legends that continue to haunt investigators to this day. If you think haunted houses only exist in movies, stay until the end, because this story may change the way you look at abandoned places forever. Deep within the endless forests of West Virginia, hidden behind miles of forgotten logging roads and surrounded by towering oak trees, stood a mansion that local residents simply called Black Hollow Manor. Official county records listed the property as abandoned since 1978. Maps barely showed its location. Satellite images often appeared strangely distorted around the estate. Even experienced hikers refused to enter the surrounding woods after sunset. To outsiders, these stories sounded like ordinary rural folklore, but locals knew something much darker. Children were warned never to mention the house after dark. Hunters claimed they sometimes heard a woman crying from inside the empty mansion. Campers reported seeing lights glowing in windows where no electricity had existed for decades. The strangest part? No one could ever explain where the lights came from. The mansion had originally been built in 1894 by wealthy businessman Jonathan Ashcroft. Ashcroft had made his fortune supplying timber to rapidly expanding American railroads. He spared no expense constructing his dream home. Imported Italian marble floors, massive crystal chandeliers shipped from Europe, hand-carved oak staircases, more than 50 rooms, an enormous library, secret servant passages hidden inside the walls. At the time, Black Hollow Manor was considered one of the grandest private homes in West Virginia. Jonathan moved in with his wife Eleanor and their 2 children. For several years, life appeared perfect. Then, tragedy arrived. In the winter of 1903, their youngest daughter, Emily, disappeared without a trace. According to newspaper archives, she had been playing inside the mansion during a heavy snowstorm. Servants searched every room, every basement, every hidden corridor. Nothing. No footprints leaving the house, no signs of kidnapping, no evidence whatsoever. It was as if the little girl had simply vanished into thin air. Her mother never recovered. Within months, Eleanor reportedly began wandering the mansion at night, claiming she could hear Emily calling her name from inside the walls. Doctors diagnosed grief-induced hallucinations, but the servants believed otherwise. Several resigned after reporting they too had heard a little girl's laughter echoing through empty hallways. One maid insisted she watched tiny footprints appear across dusty floors, only to vanish halfway across the room. Nobody believed her, until others began reporting the same thing. Years passed, then another tragedy struck. Jonathan Ashcroft himself disappeared. Unlike his daughter, his body was eventually found, hidden behind a sealed brick wall inside the basement. No one could explain how he ended up there. The wall showed no signs of recent construction. Official investigators ruled it an accident. Locals called it murder. Others whispered something far worse. After Jonathan's death, the family abandoned the mansion forever. New owners repeatedly attempted to restore it. None remained for long. In 1921, a banker purchased the estate. His family fled less than 3 months later. They refused interviews. Neighbors later claimed they often heard screaming coming from the mansion every night before they left. Another family arrived in 1938. The father claimed ghosts were nonsense. He believed the stories only existed to scare away trespassers. 1 week later, workers discovered every mirror inside the mansion shattered. No one admitted responsibility. His wife reportedly suffered a complete psychological breakdown. She spent the remainder of her life insisting that strangers watched her while she slept. No one else ever saw them. By the 1950s, Black Hollow Manor had earned a terrifying reputation across West Virginia. Teenagers occasionally challenged one another to spend a night inside. Most never lasted an hour. Those who stayed until dawn often refused to discuss what happened. Some developed severe anxiety. Others moved away entirely. One particularly disturbing incident occurred during the summer of 1964. 4 college students drove to the mansion hoping to investigate its paranormal reputation. They carried cameras, flashlights, food, sleeping bags. They planned to spend the entire weekend documenting evidence. Only 3 returned. The 4th student, 19-year-old Michael Turner, vanished. Police launched one of the largest search operations in county history. Hundreds of volunteers searched surrounding forests. Tracking dogs found nothing. Months later, Michael's camera was discovered inside the mansion. The film had been damaged. Only 1 photograph survived. It showed an empty hallway, except standing near the staircase appeared a blurry figure resembling a little girl. Investigators dismissed the image as accidental motion blur. Paranormal researchers disagreed. Over the next decade, dozens of similar reports emerged. Visitors claimed doors slammed shut without wind. Cold spots appeared in the middle of summer. Whispers echoed from sealed rooms. Some reported hearing piano music, despite no piano remaining inside the house. One electrician attempting to restore power abandoned the project after claiming every wire inside the walls had somehow been removed decades earlier. Yet lights continued appearing in upstairs windows. County officials finally condemned the mansion in 1978. Its entrance was boarded shut. Warning signs surrounded the property. Trespassing became illegal. Officials hoped the stories would eventually disappear. Instead, they grew stronger. In 1987, Sheriff Robert Collins responded to reports of teenagers entering the estate. He arrived shortly after midnight with 2 deputies. According to official records, they found no teenagers. However, Collins later admitted during an interview that all 3 officers heard footsteps above them, despite the 2nd floor being structurally inaccessible. One deputy reportedly quit law enforcement within weeks. He never publicly explained why. During the 1990s, paranormal television programs attempted filming inside Black Hollow Manor. Multiple production crews reported unexplained equipment failures. Fully charged batteries died within minutes. Audio recordings captured voices no crew members remembered hearing. One chilling recording featured a child whispering only 3 words: "Stay with us." Sound engineers could never identify the source. Skeptics argued radio interference. Believers weren't convinced. The mansion slowly became one of America's most infamous abandoned locations. Ghost hunters traveled from across the country, hoping to experience something supernatural. Many left disappointed. Others left terrified. Among them was investigative journalist Daniel Harper. Unlike paranormal enthusiasts, Daniel believed every mystery had a logical explanation. He specialized in exposing fraud. His goal was simple: spend one night inside, debunk decades of ghost stories, publish the truth. He arrived in October 2018, carrying professional cameras, thermal imaging equipment, motion sensors, drones, environmental monitors, and emergency communication devices. His live stream attracted thousands of viewers. Initially, everything appeared normal. Daniel joked about exaggerated ghost stories. He laughed at mysterious sounds caused by loose floorboards. He explained drafts using broken windows. His confidence remained unshaken until approximately 2:17 a.m. Without warning, every electronic device malfunctioned simultaneously.
Then, a small ball rolled across the floor. It stopped directly in front of him. Daniel stared silently. He whispered something almost impossible to hear. "I didn't bring that." The toy looked ancient, covered in dust, faded red paint. Exactly the type of toy a child might have owned in the early 1900s. Moments later, footsteps echoed upstairs, slow, heavy, methodical. Daniel called out several times, no response. Against his better judgment, he climbed the staircase. The live stream signal became unstable again. For nearly 4 minutes, viewers watched only darkness. Then, the camera suddenly pointed toward an old nursery. The room was empty, except for a rocking chair. It moved gently back and forth. No wind, no visible force. Daniel's breathing became increasingly rapid. He stepped closer. The chair stopped. Silence filled the room. Then one tiny voice echoed through the darkness. "Have you seen my mother?" Daniel froze. The live stream ended immediately. Authorities located him outside the mansion just before sunrise, barefoot, confused, unable to explain how he reached the front yard. His cameras contained corrupted files. Only fragments remained. Daniel never returned to paranormal investigations. He later admitted in a documentary that something happened inside Black Hollow Manor which completely changed his understanding of reality. He refused to describe it. Today, the mansion continues collapsing deeper into the surrounding forest. Nature slowly consumes its walls. Trees grow through broken windows. The roof caves inward. Wild animals roam empty corridors once filled with luxury and wealth. Yet the stories refuse to die. Local emergency services still receive occasional calls from hikers claiming they heard children laughing deep in the woods. Drones flown over the property have reportedly captured unexplained shadows moving across upper floors. Photographers occasionally discover strange figures appearing only after reviewing their pictures at home. Scientists suggest perfectly reasonable explanations. Psychologists point to expectation, fear, suggestion, environmental stress, and the human tendency to interpret ambiguous sights and sounds as supernatural. Historians remind us that abandoned buildings naturally collect myths over generations, especially when real tragedies occurred there. And they're right. Most haunted stories eventually reveal entirely ordinary explanations. But Black Hollow Manor continues leaving behind one uncomfortable question. If every strange event has a logical answer, why have so many unrelated witnesses described the same little girl across different decades without ever knowing the mansion's history? Perhaps coincidence, perhaps shared folklore, or perhaps some places remember everything. Every laugh, every tear, every life that ended within their walls. Whether ghosts truly exist remains a mystery, but one lesson is undeniably real. Abandoned buildings are dangerous. Rotting floors collapse without warning. Hidden wells, unstable staircases, toxic mold, and exposed structures have claimed countless lives across America. Curiosity should never outweigh common sense. Sometimes the greatest danger isn't the ghost stories, it's believing you're invincible. Yet, as the sun sets behind the forests of West Virginia and darkness swallows the broken windows of Black Hollow Manor once again, locals still avoid the old road, drivers still refuse to stop nearby, and every now and then, someone passing through the woods claims they hear the faint sound of a little girl asking only one question: "Have you seen my mother?" No one answers, because around Black Hollow Manor, the silence is often far more frightening than the scream. Before you dismiss every abandoned building as just another forgotten ruin, ask yourself one question. What if one house had a front door that nobody could lock because every lock mysteriously opened by itself before sunrise? What if dozens of families lived there over nearly a century and every single one left behind the exact same warning: never answer the knocking after midnight? Tonight's story is inspired by real abandoned American houses, historical disappearances, documented tragedies, and chilling urban legends that continue to circulate across the United States. While some details have been fictionalized for storytelling, the atmosphere, history, and mystery are rooted in places that truly exist. In the rolling hills of eastern Kentucky, hidden at the end of a forgotten gravel road, stood a weathered Victorian farmhouse known simply as Hollow Creek House. Unlike most abandoned homes, no one argued about whether it was haunted. People argued about whether anyone should ever go near it at all. The house had no official historical marker, no tourist signs, no preservation society, only faded county records and whispered stories passed from one generation to the next. Delivery drivers refused to approach it. Hunters avoided the surrounding woods. Even local police officers preferred taking longer routes rather than driving past the property after sunset. The strangest thing about Hollow Creek House wasn't its appearance. It looked ordinary: a collapsing porch, broken windows, a rusted weather vane spinning in the wind, faded white paint, a sagging roof covered in moss. Nothing about it seemed extraordinary until night arrived. Residents living nearly a mile away claimed they often saw a lantern glowing inside the upstairs bedroom. The problem was simple: the house had no electricity. It hadn't had electricity since 1971, yet the light appeared several nights every month, always in the same window, always disappearing moments before sunrise. County historians traced the home's origins back to 1888. It had been built by Samuel Whittemore, a respected physician who served isolated farming communities throughout eastern Kentucky. Samuel was known for helping poor families without accepting payment. He earned the trust of nearly everyone. When he completed construction of the farmhouse, neighbors admired it as one of the finest homes in the county. Samuel lived with his wife Margaret and their only son Thomas. For years, nothing unusual happened. Then, in the spring of 1999, Thomas disappeared. He was 11 years old. According to newspaper reports, he had gone outside after hearing someone knocking at the front door late one rainy night. His mother believed it was a traveler needing medical help. Samuel opened the door. No one stood outside. Moments later, Thomas was gone. Search parties combed nearby forests for weeks. Bloodhounds followed his scent to the edge of Hollow Creek. Then the trail simply ended. No footprints, no body, no explanation. The tragedy devastated Samuel. He abandoned his medical practice and spent the next decade documenting strange occurrences inside the house. His journals, later discovered in the attic, described unexplained footsteps, doors opening without wind, and persistent knocking that always occurred between midnight and 3 in the morning. Most disturbingly of all, Samuel repeatedly wrote that whoever knocked never spoke. No matter how many times he asked who was there, the knocking simply continued. 3 slow knocks, pause, 3 more, every night. Eventually, Margaret insisted they leave. Samuel refused. Neighbors later noticed he rarely slept. His health deteriorated rapidly. One autumn morning in 1910, a farmhand arrived to deliver supplies. The front door stood open. Breakfast remained untouched. Samuel had vanished. Margaret was found sitting quietly in the living room. When questioned by authorities, she answered only one sentence: "He finally opened the wrong door." Investigators searched every room.
Nothing. No hidden exits. No signs of violence. Samuel Whitmore was never seen again. Margaret left Kentucky within the year. She never returned. Over the following decades, Hollow Creek House changed owners repeatedly. Each family arrived believing the ghost stories were nothing more than exaggerated local folklore. Each family eventually left. Some stayed months, some lasted only weeks. The Reynolds family moved in during 1927. They owned 5 dairy cows and hoped to restore the neglected property. Their oldest daughter later described hearing someone gently knocking on her bedroom wall every night. The knocking always came from inside the wall. Workers dismantled sections of the bedroom during renovations. Nothing was hidden inside. The knocking continued. The Reynolds family left before winter. In 1946, returning World War II veteran James Carter purchased the house with money saved during military service. Friends described James as fearless. He openly mocked local ghost stories. On his first night inside, neighbors heard him laughing loudly from the porch. The laughter stopped shortly after midnight. The following morning, James drove into town looking exhausted. He purchased every lock available at the hardware store. Within 2 weeks, every exterior door had multiple locks installed. Friends joked that he feared burglars. James quietly answered, "I'm trying to keep something out." He sold the property less than 3 months later. He refused to explain why. By the late 1960s, Hollow Creek House had earned a reputation unlike any other abandoned building in Kentucky. People didn't claim they saw ghosts. They claimed they heard knocking. Always 3 knocks. Always after midnight. Sometimes at windows, sometimes at walls, sometimes directly beneath the floor. The pattern never changed. Local legend warned that anyone who answered the knocking would eventually disappear. No one knew how the legend began. No one wanted to test it. Then came the incident that permanently sealed the house's reputation. During Halloween weekend in 1974, 6 college students traveled from Louisville, hoping to spend the night inside. They brought sleeping bags, cameras, flashlights, and a portable tape recorder. One student suggested recording sounds throughout the night. The group laughed. By morning, the laughter was gone. 5 students walked out. 1 did not. 22-year-old Eric Dawson vanished. Police questioned everyone involved. Their stories matched perfectly. Around 2:40 a.m., they all heard knocking from the front door. 3 slow knocks. Eric joked that someone was trying to scare them. Despite his friends telling him not to answer it, he walked downstairs. He opened the door. No one stood outside. The others watched him shine a flashlight into the darkness. He stepped onto the porch. Seconds later, the flashlight dropped to the ground. Eric disappeared. There was nowhere to hide. The porch overlooked an open field illuminated by moonlight. Search dogs found only the flashlight, nothing else. The case remains officially unsolved. Years later, paranormal investigators obtained the student's original cassette recording. Most of it contained ordinary conversation. Then, precisely at 2:40 a.m., 3 distinct knocks echoed through the microphone. After that came silence. Finally, a quiet voice whispered, "Someone opened it." Audio experts confirmed the tape had not been edited. No one identified the voice. The recording became one of Kentucky's most discussed paranormal mysteries. In the decades that followed, curiosity seekers repeatedly ignored warning signs surrounding Hollow Creek House. Some entered expecting ghosts, others expecting nothing at all. Many reported leaving after hearing unexplained knocking. Several claimed they watched closed doors slowly swing open on their own. One photographer captured dozens of images inside the farmhouse. Every picture appeared normal, except one. Standing near the staircase was what looked like a young boy wearing clothing from the late 1800s. The photographer insisted no child had been present. Skeptics argued it was light distortion. The mystery remained unresolved. In 2019, documentary filmmaker Rachel Morgan decided to investigate the property for a streaming series exploring forgotten American legends. Unlike earlier television crews, Rachel relied on modern equipment: thermal cameras, infrared drones, digital audio recorders, laser motion sensors, environmental monitors. Everything was carefully calibrated before sunset. Her crew began filming shortly after dark. For hours, nothing unusual happened. Rachel interviewed local residents, recorded exterior footage, documented the building's history. Around midnight, while reviewing equipment inside the dining room, one crew member suddenly froze. The motion sensor aimed at the front porch activated. No one appeared outside. A minute later, 3 slow knocks echoed through the house. Every microphone captured them. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. Rachel walked toward the front entrance. The knocking came again. 3 slow knocks. She stopped just inches from the doorknob. Behind her, the sound engineer quietly said, "Don't." Rachel later admitted that every instinct told her to open the door. Instead, she stepped back. The knocking stopped immediately. Nothing else happened for the remainder of the night. When the crew reviewed thermal footage the following day, they discovered something strange. At the exact moment the knocking occurred, a cold, human-shaped figure appeared briefly on the porch. It remained motionless for nearly 12 seconds before fading away. Experts suggested camera malfunction. Others disagreed. Rachel never returned. Today, Hollow Creek House continues to decay beneath vines and towering trees. The porch has partially collapsed. The roof leaks. Nature is slowly reclaiming every room. Yet locals still avoid the property after dark, not because they fear ghosts, because too many people across too many generations described the exact same experience without ever speaking to one another. 3 slow knocks,
always after midnight. Scientists offer reasonable explanations. Old wooden structures naturally expand and contract. Animals create mysterious noises. The human brain often finds patterns where none exist. Fear itself can make ordinary sounds seem extraordinary. Those explanations account for many haunted house stories, perhaps even this one. But one mystery remains difficult to ignore. Why did diaries written in 1902, police interviews in 1974, and digital recordings in 2019 all describe the exact same knocking pattern? Perhaps coincidence, perhaps folklore passed unconsciously through generations, or perhaps some doors are meant to stay closed. Whether ghosts exist is a question each person must answer for themselves. But one lesson is unquestionably real. Abandoned buildings are extremely dangerous. Rotting floors, unstable ceilings, exposed nails, collapsing staircases, and hidden wells have caused countless serious injuries across the United States. No mystery is worth risking your life. And if you ever find yourself alone on a forgotten country road, standing before an abandoned house, and you hear 3 slow knocks on the front door, you may remember this story. The smartest choice might not be answering.